All right. Well, good evening, Laurel Highlands Scouting Community. I'm Dr. Dan Zimmer, your Council Commissioner. Welcome to our June Council Scouting Update Series. As a matter of housekeeping, this session is being recorded for later viewing by your parents and your other scouters. Remember that the information we present here this evening is more general in nature. You can find more detailed information on the LHC website. Also, if you would, throughout the evening, if you would put all of your questions in the chat session, we will address them at the end. So with that in mind, let us begin with Steve Franks with our opening with the pledge.
Hello, everyone. We will begin with the pledge and the oath and law. So let me go ahead and do a share here. Hopefully you can see, and here we go. Of course, I cannot hear.
Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country, to obey the Scout law, to help other people at all times, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight.
A Scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent.
Right. And with that, we have announcements, and I'm going to turn right.
All right. Thank you, Steve. So one quick announcement here. The University of Scouting for Laurel Highlands Council is coming back. It will be held at Penn West Cal U March 7th, 2026. More info to come. Steve?
All right. Gonna find all the goodies that I've got loaded up here. And I just want to point out, so we have a little announcement regarding Wood Badge. Wood Badge will be held this year over the 2 weekends of August 29th and 31st, and also September 27th and 28th. If you're doing the math, that's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday in August, Saturday and Sunday in September. We happen to be joined by the course director. Vern, if you'd like to take 30 seconds to a minute to talk about what the prospective attendees can expect.
Can we show the video?
I do not have that video lined up right now.
Hold on. Well, can you unshare and I'll do it?
Yep.
Can you find the thing here? It won't let me share. Anyway, I guess like Steve says, I am the course director for CST 12-527-25 Wood Badge course. I'd like to see you come on out and participate in this course. This course is our elite leadership training for all first contact leaders. I can't tell you this program has been out for close to 100 years. So right now, I appreciate you, take a look and come on out here and get your skill set updated a little bit. It's an experience that you will not forget. You get to use this in your unit as well as in your personal life. Using myself for an example, I took it back, I want to date myself, almost 26 years ago. And it changed everything in reference to what I had to do. It actually got me 5 promotions on my regular job, and I wasn't looking for them. And I could just blame that on Wood Badge along with some other things. But I think you need to really, hunker down and see about upgrading your skill sets. And Wood Badge is the program to do it. All right, Mr. Fox, right back to you.
All right. Thank you very much, Vern. I will now share one more time. This time in order to show you a little bit of information about National Jamboree that will be late July of 2026. It is Scouting's flagship event. It's a true one-of-a-kind event for people to participate in and to experience. Tens of thousands of scouts, leaders, and Jamboree service team members will explore all kinds of adventures, stadium shows, Pioneer Village, Mount Jack hikes, adventure sports, and more, all at Summit Bechtel Reserve in West Virginia. It is a mere 3.5-hour drive from where I live, and there are other people, plenty of people, who live even closer than that. There is no excuse to not want to go.
Great. Thanks, Steve. Justin, why don't you tell us about the Summer Cub Scouting Program?
Hi, thank you so much, Dr. Dan. Good evening, everybody. So for many of you who might be aware, we do have 2 of our main programs set and ready to go for this summer for our Cub Scout Summer. The first one, as soon as I get this up and running, will be our Cub Scout Day Camp. A Cub Scout Day Camp is very important, where not only is it camping in your own backyard, so you don't really have to go that far for you to travel to day camp, but you also have the opportunity to help ease your kids into it for those who might not be that experienced or ready yet for multiple overnights. And then going into our second program is going to be our summer resident camp program at Camp Independence for Cub Scouts, where we have 2 different programs. We have, of course, our standard Cub program, where we invite Cub Scouts of all ages to come down for 3 days at Camp Independence and the various different sessions that we still have available. And we have also brought back, for the first time in many years, our Webelos and AOL specific program, where we invite specifically our Arrow of Lights and our Webelo Scouts, our 4th and 5th graders, to experience a little bit more higher end version of camping, more akin to introduction to scouting. So I think this is an excellent program where they'll be able to go in and experience a lot more higher base adventure with such as BMX biking, a little more intense rock climbing, pellet gun shooting, and various other different activities. All of these are available on the Laurel Highlands Council's website. Whenever you go on, of course, under LHCBSA's summer tab, you'll be able to see all the sessions that are available. We do have some that are closed because they're coming up real fast, and we have some that are waitlisted because how popular they are. However, we do have many more available. Please take this opportunity to sign up for it. Firsthand experience, when I went to it, it's a wonderful time. Now, there is one more activity I wanted to talk about. This is not on announcements for that you guys would have known yet. Actually, this is a sneak peek. I don't think many of you have heard about this. Fresh off the press from council, myself and one of our development directors, Lindsay Seibel, we went ahead and had a wonderful meeting with the Pittsburgh Zoo and re-engaging a relationship with them. For some of our old timers here, you might remember we had a Pittsburgh Zoo Day back in 2019. Fortunately, we are a go for this year. We're finalizing the registration page for it, but for those until then, put it on your calendars for Saturday, September 27th. There will be a Scouting America Day at the Pittsburgh Zoo and PBG Aquarium, where we'll be able to have a reduced rate for scouts to attend, for our new scouts to attend in the middle of recruitment, and also our family members as well to attend. A great day to promote scouting, but also use as a great recruitment opportunity as the first major event for your families to attend that you're recruiting over the summer and at the beginning of the school year. More information will be coming out for that. I'll be having a weekly meeting on that to ensure that everything's going to be happening smoothly for it. All right, that is all I have. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Justin. Todd, what do you have for us for a safety minute?
All right, let me share my screen here. Okay, can everybody see that?
Nothing yet.
Not
Nothing yet?
yet.
Okay, give me a second. Oh, I see. There we go. Let me do that. Now, can you see it?
Good.
Yes.
Okay, so today's safety moment is on incident reporting. Timely and complete incident reporting provides Scouting America with an opportunity for analysis of incidents that can occur and promotes continuous improvement of our programs. In our experience, the sooner a clear, concise, and complete incident report is made, the sooner that an appropriate response to an incident can occur. What is an incident? There are three types of reportable incidents. Near miss. A near miss does not result in injury, illness, or damage by definition, but it had the potential to do so. General liability. Events or allegations of injury, illness, or property damage, including employment, director, and officer issues. Youth protection membership infraction. Allegations of abuse, violations of Scouting America guidelines or policies, or inappropriate behavior by a scout leader, a parent, or somebody else at the activity. Why report an incident? The information reported from incidents helps identify areas for improvement so we can help prevent the reoccurrence of similar incidents. Scouting America cannot address a concern if we do not know about it. Reporting incidents promptly is also critical so Scouting America can respond in a timely manner and manage claims properly. When do I report an incident? You should immediately contact your local council to report and get assistance with serious, fatal, or abuse incidents. Report within 24 hours if an injury or illness cannot be treated by Scout rendered first aid, a medical professional such as a doctor or nurse was needed, or an ambulance was called. How do I report an incident? There are incident reporting tools to assist you in collecting the facts of incident to provide to your local council. See Scouting America's incident reporting webpage. See all things incident reporting in the resources section below. Reporting tips. It is important that incident reports are filled out as completely as possible. This will help bring clarity to the situation and avoid unnecessary calls or emails for additional information. Photographs of the site, facilities, vehicles, or equipment can add value to the report. Remember to include only pertinent facts about the incident. Do not assign blame or include personal opinions. Stick to the facts. And just as a reminder, if anybody ever wants to look this up on their own, this is on the Scouting America website. You can just type in scouting or safety moments, and it'll lead you to this page, and you can click on these links for more information.
Great. Thanks, Todd. Steve, how about a membership moment?
Just a sec here. There we go. Hopefully everyone can see this. Summer is a time for friends, family, and fun. One of the best ways to grow membership is by having a family fun day, and there couldn't be a better time than summer to host them. Ask your current scouts, parents, and PAC committee to come up with 3 names each to invite for an upcoming family fun day. Invite former scouts and unit alumni to participate in the day of fun. Youth want to belong to units with their friends, new and old. Asking a variety of leaders to host or run each family fun day is important so everyone can enjoy their summer and the responsibility doesn't fall on one person. Summertime allows for more flexibility when planning. These can be planned at any time of the day or week, inside or outside, with structured activities, casual drop-ins. Ask your Cub Scouts what activities they would like to do. Even Cub Scouts know what their friends will be interested in. A few suggestions: bike rodeo, professional baseball game, Scout Olympics, Dutch oven cooking potluck, a splash pad, tie-dye, or any other STEM activity, relay races, library or museum meetup, discount movie theater meetup, hike, full moon hike, campfire with songs and s'mores, picnic, ice cream party, pool party unit event, family volleyball or softball game. The opportunities are limitless, and remember, these are meant to be fun for the whole family.
Great. Thanks, Steve. Let's move on to the big rock topic this evening of mental awareness. Steve, would you please introduce Courtney and Susan?
Yes, absolutely. Just a little bit of a setup here. I happen to serve Frontier District, and frequently Frontier District meets together with Beaver Valley District for such events as our Scouting Update series at the district level. And in February, we had an event, basically what you're going to see tonight, where we had Courtney Cox and Susan Smith join us to talk about helping Scouts with anxiety. Courtney happens to work for the Beaver County Behavioral Health, and Susan Smith is with Beaver County Rehabilitation Center. And with that, I hand it off to Courtney and Susan.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Courtney Cox, and like you said, I'm from Beaver County Behavioral Health. I'm a mental health specialist there. And what a lot of what we do actually work with our youth, and we have a great program called Youth Ambassador Program, where we actually get a lot of input from our youth on some of these topics and things like that. I'm gonna let Susan introduce herself while I share my PowerPoint.
Good evening, everyone, and we want to thank you for this opportunity to meet with you all. It is indeed a pleasure. And again, my name is Susan Smith. As I was introduced, I am employed by Beaver County Rehabilitation Center, commonly referred to as BCRC. And I am one of the coordinators for the Youth Ambassador Program that Courtney just spoke about. It's a mental health awareness and acceptance program that is in all of our schools in Beaver County. We started out with 5 schools and 80 students 8 years ago, over 8 years county. So we are working with every public school, non-public, all public, non-public, and all entities, schools, and alternative programs that come together 3 times a year, and we work on enhancing mental health awareness and decreasing stereotypes and stigmas associated with mental illness. Again, thank you for the opportunity to be here.
So I'll get us started. Can somebody know, can you see the presentation? All right, cool. So like Steve said, we're going to talk a lot about anxiety, but we also wanted to go a little bit over some of just other mental health disorders, signs and symptoms of a mental health challenge, as well as how you can help youth experience a mental health challenge. And we'll talk mostly about, can you still see? Sorry. Okay. We'll mostly be talking about anxiety, but we did put some of the other information in here. If anybody has gone through youth mental health first aid training, some of these things might be familiar to you. And if you have not gone through youth mental health first aid training, I highly suggest it. It's really great. It's an all-day kind of training, but it really does help you understand some of more of these topics that we're going to kind of go over more in depth than what we can do in this time. So how common are mental health disorders in youth? 1 in 5 youth in the United States will have a mental disorder that significantly impacts their life. So quite a bit. That's why it's really important that we're all here talking about these topics and that we continuously talk about it so that we can support our youth. So we're going to go a little bit into some of these disorders. So we're not going to go too much into depth because we could have a whole time talking about just one of these. But depressive disorders. So it's a sad or low mood that persists for at least 2 weeks. So fewer than half of young people experience depression will receive treatment. I do want to say here too that just because somebody is sad does not mean that they have depression. There's also things that can be, they can have seasonal depression. It could be kind of something that happens and it's, only for a few weeks and things like that. That's not having a depressive disorder. That is just, having maybe a low time there. So depression can lead to physical and additional emotional problems. It can interfere with how someone functions at school, home, and in social settings. So approximately 8.7 youth will be diagnosed with a depressive disorder during their lifetime. And so it causes feelings of sadness and or loss of interest in activities once enjoyed. So just kind of a quick one about depressive disorders. And anxiety. So anxiety is feeling of worry caused by perceived threats in the environment. So each person with anxiety can have different range of worries and responses to anxiety. There are very many different types of anxiety disorder. So you can have social anxiety, you can have generalized anxiety. So an anxiety disorder differs from everyday anxiety in the following way. So it's more severe, it is persistent, and interferes with the youth studies or other activities in family and social relationships. So approximately 8.3% of youth will be diagnosed with an anxiety disorder during their lifetime. So anxiety and depressive disorders are highest for our youth. Anxiety is one of the most common mental disorders that occur in children and youth. Many of the adults who currently live with anxiety disorder began to show symptoms of anxiety during their childhood. And so we really wanted to put this in here too, that anxiety is something that we all experience at some point. So there are helpful feelings of anxiety. So feeling anxious is kind of part of the normal range of emotions, just like feeling angry or embarrassed. For most, anxiety doesn't last and it goes away on its own. Feeling anxious can also help maybe a teenager feel safer by getting them to think about the situation they're in. It can also motivate them to do their best. It can help them ready for a challenging situation like public speaking or sporting events. And then for some teenagers, it doesn't go away, or it's so intense it actually stops them from doing something. Those everyday things, that is when it becomes more of a disorder. So I just wanted to put that in there so that we kind of understood the difference a little bit, that there are those hints it can be helpful in some aspects, but it's when it becomes too intense and we're not using the proper coping skills to work through them, that it can be more debilitating. And then we have trauma and stressor-related disorders. So trauma and stressor-related disorders are a group of emotional and behavioral problems that may result from traumatic and stressful experiences during childhood. PTSD is an example of a trauma and stress-related disorder. So individual with PTSD might have symptoms of persistent, frightening thoughts and memories or flashbacks of a traumatic event or events. So many children are exposed to trauma and adverse experiences, but only about 1.5% of youth report experiencing PTSD that severely impairs their ability. So, like I said, these are just some of the disorders that a child might experience or have. And so we just want to throw those some in there, but I'm gonna have Susan kind of talk about what are some signs and symptoms.
Okay, so what we want to do is define signs and symptoms of mental health disorders, that namely anxiety and depression. And so signs are things that we can see or observe, like appearance and behavior, that indicates that mental health challenges, that indicate a mental health challenge in the body. And then symptoms are indicators of a mental health challenge that a person could feel. So their feelings and their thoughts. So kind of that I like to say they're, tangibles, behaviors and appearances are more tangibles. And then the intangibles would be the symptoms. Okay, next slide. Courtney. Did I freeze? I think I'm freezing. I'm freezing. Wow.
We can hear you.
No, you're good. Courtney,
You hear me
good.
now? Okay. So
Susan,
I need to put a disclaimer out there. The weather is bad, storming a little bit here. So my internet is going to be very shoddy, and I do apologize for that. So
Not a concern right now. It's working well.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you what, I'm having a little anxiety right now. How about that? So,
Okay.
so
can you see the slide now, Susan?
I can see the slide. Thank you so very much. Okay, so then we're going to when do signs and symptoms become a challenge? So we look at duration. So when signs and symptoms present are present for an extended period of time, that is when it becomes it becomes a concern at that point. And then we look at the impact, and so we're looking at how the signs and symptoms get in the way of school performance, peer and family interactions, or just normal activities or routines, being able to, for the youth to be able to perform, youth or adults, to be able to perform those normal activities. And then frequency. An individual can experience signs and symptoms most of the day or the majority of their day. It can just fluctuate. There's really no rhyme nor reason to it.
Yeah. And this is where you're actually going to see that difference between that helpful anxiety and maybe we're now coming towards a challenge or, a disorder, is that you're going to see it's going to be, longer, there's going to be a larger impact and more frequency.
We, as Courtney had said earlier, we all experience anxiety. And a lot of times when I was preparing for this, I thought of when I was younger. I used to say I work best under stress. I perform better. Now that I've gotten older, I realize that is not true. That tend to put a lot more pressure on myself than necessary. But it's not, I don't have I'm not diagnosed with a diagnosis of chronic anxiety or generalized anxiety. It's a lot of times it was me putting those pressures on myself. So with that, how might a youth appear when they're showing signs and symptoms of anxiety and or depression? Their skin may seem clammy because they're sweating, or they could have chills. Quick breathing, just heart beating, they're having heart palpitations. They could be complaining about stomach issues. Their muscles they just might seem like they're really, really tense. Their eyes can be dilated, personal hygiene can decline, and their hormones could be like a roller coaster. They could be up and down, switching, in and out all the time. Very, very emotional.
Yeah, and I would say too,
very emotional.
I would say too, so anxiety specifically, you might see a lot of stomach pain issues, and heartbeat faster, quick breathing. Those are kind of the ones you'll see a lot of.
That personal hygiene too, especially if it was somebody that took a lot of pride in their appearance, and they just tend, just seem like they just don't care, and it just seems so odd. Courtney, you might have to jump in here. It was saying that my connectivity was questionable right now, so I'm gonna try to get through this. And again, I do apologize. How might a youth behave? They might just be very emotional, crying. They might, demonstrate crying spells, withdraw from others, difficulty managing responsibilities because they're having a problem focusing, disinterest in, as we just talked about, personal appearance, a loss of motivation, slow movement, a use of drugs and alcohol. That's called self-medicating, and that is a big concern. And we see that a lot. Changes in energy level. Somebody who could be very outgoing now is very withdrawn. Obsessive compulsive behavior. Someone who is paranoid, just always worrying, very excessively worrying about everything, or questioning everything. Avoidance or phobic behaviors, showing distress, talking quickly. And it's because their mind is moving, is rapid cycling. They're trying to keep up with their mind, and they tend to talk fast. And then non-suicidal injuries. A perfect example of that is someone who cuts themselves or is burning themselves. And they're not doing that because they're it's not, they think that it'll stop the pain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think for anxiety too, a big one that we see is a loss of motivation. You know, if they get so anxious about doing something, they just kind of stop doing it so that they don't have to feel those feelings, right? An avoidance feeling, right? And so you might see that kind of drop off of interest of things, things like that. So some of these things, you know, there could be a situation that arises that makes it so that somebody feels these things. It does not mean that they have a disorder. It could just be a situational thing. So just making sure you're aware that we're not trying to diagnose anybody that has experienced any of these things.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and Courtney had said about situational, it can also be seasonal anxiety or depression too. So we want to just introduce that as well. And then the youth may feel be depressed or have mood swings, have unrealistic or excessive anxiety or guilt. They might demonstrate that. They excessive irritability or anger, somebody that's not typically their personality. A loss of inhibition, just no get up and go. A lack of emotions or emotional responses, helplessness, feelings of helplessness or hopelessness. They're in a dark place and they just don't know how to get out of there. Oversensitivity to comments or criticism. Sometimes they're very they personalize everything. They may personalize everything, and they may demonstrate very low levels of self-esteem. And no matter how many times people are reassuring to them, that does not improve their self-esteem.
I think I do want to point out, and we'll talk a little bit at the end too, that feeling of helplessness or hopelessness. That's a real one that you really want to make sure that you're checking up on, because that could turn into a crisis situation of needing, they need to really talk to somebody. So just putting that out there, because that's one of those ones that, it can be a trigger for, maybe it being a crisis situation.
When we had introduced the Youth Ambassador program, and we're both coordinators for YAP. And I've been fortunate enough to be involved with it since December of 2017. Told them that we wanted to help them to be able to develop a toolkit that would enable them to be able to identify behaviors in their peers and or themselves. And that's very important. And we realize that peer interactions are very important, because all our the students are with their peers more than than they are within the schools, and sometimes with their family members. Their family members, they could shield things from family members, but their peers, it's really important for them to be in tune with their friends. We've got wristbands that say, see something, say something, hear something, say something. Okay. And then how a youth may feel, how youth may think. They may frequently self-criticize themselves, have low self-esteem, and a lot of self-blame, shaming and blaming themselves, an altered sense of others or the outside world. Things are just very skewed. They're not thinking clearly. They're a lot of times just very unrealistic. Permissiveness, a difficulty in making decisions. That I think those two go hand in hand. Difficulty concentrating or remembering. They have difficulty focusing. Rapid thinking. Again, their minds are just, they're just racing. Their thoughts are racing. Again, there we go, racing thoughts. Then delusions or hallucinations. And so with mental health first aid, we always differentiate between delusions and hallucinations. And so a delusion is Courtney, help me please. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Am
yeah,
I
I can hear you.
frozen?
No, you're good.
Okay.
You're good. Yeah. So your delusions or hallucinations, like, so your hallucinations are more so those things that you think you see, that you're seeing.
Mhm.
Delusions are more of those, like that thinking part, right? The part that's
Right.
in your brain.
Right.
Your
Thank
thoughts.
you.
Mhm.
Thank you. Odd ideas. Again, their reasonings are skewed. Just their overall thought pattern is very skewed. A loss of insight. They just look at things totally different. Suspiciousness, that would be part of the paranoia. And then there are also thoughts of death or suicide when they're called suicidal ideations. And with that, they're thinking that they're in such a dark place that everybody, including themselves, things would be better if they just weren't here. If they could just end everything. They think that they tend to believe that they're a burden on their families and that things just aren't going to get any better. And so that's where the thoughts of death and suicide come in.
And
The
with
pain would
any
go away.
And then with any of these disorders or anxiety and things like that, when we're listing all these things, these aren't meaning that they're going to have every one of these, or they might have one, they could have two of these things. So just making sure you're aware, these are us just kind of giving you some ideas of things to look out for and to be thinking about when you are talking to a child that you might be, concerned about. So not saying that, they're going to have all of these or any of these, because any of these disorders can be very like personal, like whatever that person is feeling when it comes to anxiety can be very personal to them. And so how it comes out can be very different depending on who you're talking with and who has, whose disorder or how they're experiencing it. So just be aware of that as well.
And their perception is their reality. This is where they're at right now. So their feelings are very real to them. Their feelings of inadequacy and self-blame, things like that those are real to them, even though a lot of times in the best situations they receive assurance that that things will get better and that they are important. And we do a lot with our Beaver County system of care, and we'll get to that a little later. So I won't jump ahead. And again, please forgive me. I am like having a lot of anxiety right now because I can't tell when I freeze. I can't tell if you're hearing me, if you're not hearing me. I do appreciate the smiling faces, Steve and Dan. Thank you so very much. Thank you. Oh, there you go. Thank you. Bless your hearts. Because I'm having a little meltdown here. Okay. So moving along. I thank you for your grace and space. Thank you. With that said, typical behaviors versus potential warning signs. So the typical behaviors are, withdrawing with youth, withdrawing as they're going through adolescence. Those of us that have when we were young, as well as when we've interacted with family members or in scouts. I'm sure you, as the kids start to get older and they start to go through adolescence, things start to change. So sometimes in this case, they're saying sometimes they choose to spend more time with friends, but sometimes the friends that they choose a different group of friends, not making really good choices in selecting friends, their friend group. Occasionally losing their temper when things don't go their way, moving from childhood likes to teen pursuits. That's normal. And then sometimes struggling to complete tasks and to complete undesired tasks. That's also normal too. Is again, as a parent and a grandparent of a preteen, I see that one a lot. Now, the potential warning signs, and I think it's really hard for us sometimes too, because sometimes there's blurred lines between the typical adolescent behaviors and the potential warning signs. So the warning signs are withdrawing from friends, family, and social activities. frequently arguing. Another one could be frequently arguing with adults or purposely breaking rules. Just wanting to color outside the lines, not having, losing respect for adults, for their elders, and then losing interest in their favorite activities and not replacing them with other positive pursuits. So kind of like I had said earlier, changing, like their friend group changes totally from the kids that they had grown up with that are, positive influences, to kids that maybe are not making very good decisions. And then difficulty remaining focused and maintaining concentration across a variety of tasks and settings. Again, that's very close. That's a blurred line between what's typical and what could be a potential warning sign. I think it's just very important for us to know our youth, to spend as much time with them as we possibly can, to reassure them as much as we possibly can. But always being cognizant of these things, these warning signs. If they are present for an excessive period of time. Okay,
And
Courtney.
yeah. And so some causes of anxiety in teens. So teens are under a lot of pressure. So teenagers' brains are changing and they become more independent and have autonomy. So during this time, there are many stressors. So like I said, there's that there is going to be some anxiety. The anxiety they experience often is centered around perfectionism and around grades, college, extracurriculars, as well as what's happening socially among their peers. So teens are building confidence and figuring out who they are. And so this can be a really a stressful time for them. And so physical changes also can help or make it uncomfortable to be a kid as well, as we all know probably. So these are just kind of some ideas of where, some of anxiety can be coming from when it comes to teens and what they could be experiencing. So what can you do to help a struggling child, which is what I think a lot of us are here for, and to really know how that we can, and like I said, this is not encompassing of everything. We're just trying to give you some ideas of what you can do to support the kids you're working with. Have these come up. So the first one, no matter what's going on, listening non-judgmentally. So paying special attention to verbal cues and nonverbal cues. So it's really important that it's not just what's coming out of their mouth that we're actually looking at. We're also trying to making sure what's going on with their body language, right? What are they not saying? When appropriate, ask questions, but don't push, right? So you don't also want to jump into everything with I just want to fix it for them, right? You want to hear them first, right? So you want to be an active listener. Use I statements to convey what you've observed. So rather than, coming around and talking about, well, when I was your age, this is how I experienced it, or that can really kind of turn the whole conversation around. So really just trying to, say like, this is what I observed. This is how I hear you're feeling. This is what I'm, and really try to get the actual answer. And to do it not really important. And so you're not going to express any negative judgments. So that's, that person's not going to come to you again if they feel like you're being negative all the time, or if everything they say seems to get a reaction that they don't want, right? Don't make assumptions. If you have questions, ask them. Don't, when it's appropriate, but don't make an assumption that you know how they feel or what they're, experiencing. Give reassurance and information. That's, also great. And we're going to talk about a little bit more what that means. And then talk with them about what's activating them, right? So if you see that they've, are acting differently than they are, try to figure out with them or talk them through what's going on so that, they might not know. They might not know what triggered them, what set them off. But, coming in calm and understanding how you're feeling and kind of making sure that you're taking care of yourself first before you enter that conversation as well, because we all know when, someone's being a little disrespectful, it can elevate us, and then we don't come into the conversation in a non-judgmental way. We're not asking the right questions. We can jump to that punishment or blaming. rather than trying to figure out what's going on and what maybe triggered the behavior. Encourage them to seek professional help when you can. Going through this training or going through like first aid mental health or youth first aid we never say you're not professional in this case. This is you just helping them, guide them to maybe getting support or kind of encouraging that, or giving them resources and things like that. And then encourage the self-help and other support strategies, which we're going to talk a little bit about.
Okay, so we're going to talk about harmful approaches versus helpful approaches. So on the left are all the harmful approaches, things that we just don't want to do. We don't want to do blaming, or we don't want them to feel that we're blaming or shaming them or dismissing their feelings. Instead, we'd like to validate their feelings and emphasize the importance of their feelings and them talking about their feelings. We also, on the harmful side, we don't want to talk about our concerns in a crowd. We'd like to talk, we'd rather these kind of conversations need to be done privately and possibly one-on-one, or maybe, but not like, I know in school settings, a lot of times the guidance counselor, it might be a one-on-one situation, but in some cases they might bring somebody else in, depending on how sensitive the situation has that they're talking about is. But you don't want to have a crowd. You don't want to have too many people in this conversation, because then they're going to be intimidated and then they're not going to open up. With the Youth Ambassador program, we always tell the kids that we not only listen to them, we hear them. So, and like Courtney had just said, active listening is very, very important. And paraphrasing through youth mental health first aid, paraphrasing is something that, they have taught us is very important, because then the student or the youth knows that we are actually listening to what they said. We did hear them. And then pressuring them to speak. As adults, we don't like someone to tell us what we have to do. It's better to encourage them to speak. Let the young person know, let them know that when they're ready to talk, we're ready to listen. Okay. And then let's not label their emotions as bad. I mean, that's a negative connotation. That'll shut the conversations down immediately. And stay away from labeling their thoughts. Instead, we need to stay away from labeling their thoughts, emotions, and experiences as good or bad. We want them to talk to us. Let them tell us how they're feeling. And if a label has to be assigned, let them do that. If they need to put things in boxes, let them say, okay, this is good, this is bad, this is indifferent. But that's for them to do, not for us to do. Okay.
Yeah.
And beware that the person may not. Okay, that's where I was going.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Beware that I thought I had froze. I'm sorry. Beware that the person may not open up until they are sure that you care. And so that's one thing we try to emphasize when we're working with teachers and adults like yourselves. The youth respond well to consistency and caring. When they know that you care and that they can count on you, they will open up. Might not open up that first time. It might take a little bit of time, but that consistency is definitely the key.
Yeah. And one of the other things that we talk a lot about is that coping toolkit that we talk with kids about, because it's super important that they have, some way to self-help if, something's going on or they're experiencing strong emotions, especially with anxiety. And so we did want to give you some examples of things that you can work on, especially if you're with a youth, if they're experiencing something like this. One of the big things is breaking down tasks that they can find overwhelming with anxiety. Their brain could be running a mile a minute, right? Those racing thoughts, or it could be they see the big picture, they see the end result, and they're like, well, that's too overwhelming, I'm not going to do it. And then they shut down. So you can break it down, making it easier for them to, like, if you say, like, this is what we're going to do, this is the first step. If it seems easier if you do it that way, than kind of overwhelming them with a lot of things at once. It's small wins. So provide positive praise and encourage them. So it might seem like, oh, well, I didn't do the whole task, and now I'm feeling awful, right? And so if we celebrate those small wins, like, well, you got the first thing done, you did what you could. Let's, maybe next time we try to get to the second step, right? Or however, if it's, hey, like, you already did this first one, you've accomplished it, great. Let's go on to the next thing. So I think really just celebrating those small wins, because it can be really hard. I mean, for somebody who's dealing with depression or anxiety, it could be even as hard as getting out of bed in the morning for somebody. So, if they got up that morning and that, they were able to take a shower and, get to school or whatever, that could be, all they have in them that day. So it's really important that we celebrate those. Practice deep breathing. So there's a bunch of different things out there for breathing. There's things like box breathing. There's even, I think I have one up there, a picture of it is count down to calm. There's another way, while they're breathing through that. There's a really helpful ways to reset. And that's kind of with anxiety, a lot of times your mind's racing or something's overwhelming you and you have to reset. Unhelpful thinking, that can also be really hard to do sometimes, right? If our anxiety and everything is telling us, I did an awful day, I didn't, I'm bad or whatever it is, that can be really hard to accomplish a task, right? So helping them learn how to challenge those unhelpful thinking can be really helpful. And exercising, that's, if we need to move or do something like that, can be really great. And sometimes, even Miss Susan will tell you this too, sometimes just crying it out for a little bit can be helpful. It might sound,
My favorite one.
yes. Yeah, a good cry can help. I know it sounds kind of, we don't, we're like, oh, that's, being a baby or whatever. It crying can be helpful, especially if it's going to help you reset.
When Courtney and I go in and out of a lot of schools together, and so we'll ask the students, what's it like to be a 7th grade student at Beaver Middle School? Is it stressful? And they will come with just, oh my goodness, a plethora of reasons why life is stressful to be a 7th grader. But then on the flip side, we ask them, well, what do you do when you're stressed out? And then they're really good about saying many of the things that Courtney had just identified. But I always tell them, we want them to understand that they are not in this alone, and that adults do have stressors and anxieties. And I always tell them one of my major coping skills when life gets a little heavy is to cry sometimes, a good cry, and then to go to sleep, take a nap. Because for me, waking up, after I wake up from that nap, things look like what did Courtney said, I reset. That gives me an opportunity to reset, and things look a little bit different. I can look at things maybe a little more objectively after I've taken that nap. And so, and the kids will agree with me that, sleeping is good. So, Courtney had said that, when she was going through her one list there, she talked about the importance of giving reassurance and providing information. And so here's a list of why things that need to be said, that could be said differently. It's kind of like things not to say. You don't want to tell a student that's going through maybe not a full-blown crisis, but a mini crisis that, we all remember when we had our first breakup, how devastating that was. So you don't want to tell a youth that, oh, I remember my first breakup and here's what you need to do. As Courtney said previously, we want to avoid using I statements. It's not about us. It's how can we help them? Then, you really need to talk to a counselor about that. Well, that's not bad advice. It's one of those things. It's not what you said, but kind of how you said it. So you could spend time talking to your youth and make a suggestion that, have you talked to your counselor about that, or have you talked to your scout leader? Have you talked to your pastor, someone that's very close to you, to help you just kind of listen and talk through the situation? That's important. And then you don't want to tell somebody, oh, you'll get over it, don't you worry too much. That'll shut down a conversation for sure. And then the way you're handling this isn't healthy. Definitely will close doors. So what we want what we all should be doing as adults when we're working with youth is trying to express empathy, providing hope for them, offering resources and information such as like crisis hotlines and other community and national resources that are available to them. We also want to encourage professional help, that being starting out with a guidance counselor, and then starting out with a guidance counselor, and then or going to talking to their PCP, or enlisting the help of a licensed therapist or psychiatrist. And then we want to also help them develop some self-help strategies. And when we talk about self-help strategies, Courtney had touched on those a little before. We want them to develop that coping skills toolkit. We also want them to help to start setting boundaries. We need them to know that it's okay to say no. And it's okay self-care is not being selfish. And they need to sometimes make themselves a priority. We always say it's okay not to be okay. And it really isn't. And we want them to know that they are not alone. So Courtney had talked about the relaxation techniques with breathing, and there's also physical activity and exercise. And then a healthy diet can also help too.
Susan kind of talked about this too, but it's so important that, we tell them to, use self-care and things like that. But it's also really important that you also take care of your own mental health, right? That you, as their positive role models, are taking care of their mental health and are, experiencing and also doing what you're preaching, right? That we are, we're also using our self-care. And so kids take cues from adults on how they can manage that stress and anxiety. So, really important that we're looking at the way we speak, like we said, and how we experience our own stressors, right? So like, are we, demonstrating that self-compassion, right? Are we forgiving ourselves when we make a mistake? And, are we discussing what's going on with the youth, right? Like, hey, I know you saw me get upset about this. This is how I was feeling, and this is how how I'm going to, work through this, right? So that we are being honest, and that we're, we are demonstrating that forgiveness to ourselves as well. So, that we're not also getting caught up in that perfectionism, because that can be really hard on us as well. And keep things in perspective. Discuss the rational and irrational responses to challenges that arise, right? That's how they learn. And so if they're seeing you experience something some way, they might, do the same, right? So just remembering that we need to take care of our own.
Mm-hmm.
And Susan kind of talked about this, but what if the youth don't want help, or they don't want your help right now? Encourage them to talk to someone else they trust, right? If they're not feeling like you're the person that they want to talk to, help them find somebody else. Never threaten the youth with hospitalization or any punitive action, because then they're never going to come around to wanting that help, right? Remain patient and remain friendly and open. So the young person may want your help in the future, just maybe not right now. And so just reminding them, being that consistent person is super important.
Okay, so this is one of our with our Beaver County system of care, we spend a lot of time sharing resources, like we had said in the slide that I did a couple minutes ago, that we want to be able to share information with them. So this is I call it a refrigerator magnet, but it's a magnet that's been made up that talks about, first and foremost, says it's okay not to be okay. You're not alone, and we are here to help you. So what there's not every, but a lot of local and national information on this magnet, as well as there are warning signs off to the right for a person that may be experiencing a mental health emergency. And so we Courtney and I, along with our colleagues, we do a lot of what we call tabling, where we are at events and we set up tables and we have all kind of resources, and we talk to everyone that comes to our tables, and we encourage them to take the information and to use it and to share it, because again, we want people to know that, everyone to know that help is available by phone, or text, or chat. This 988 number is huge. It's been in existence about 3 years now, Courtney.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little bit more than, yeah, about 3 years.
Yeah.
And so the national hotline used to be a 1-800 number, but then it was changed to 988. Just like you would have 911, you have 988. And it's 24/7 chat lifeline, for you can chat, text, or call, and there will be a counselor on the other end to help someone through that situation. Now, here in Beaver County, we also have our own crisis unit here in Beaver County, with our right in the building with our behavioral health, and they're available to go out and do mobile crisis if need be. So we just want everybody to know. We also do campaigns about, we do coasters and posters. That's one that we're working on right now. We just did posters, and we've hung them up everywhere we can think to hang them up. And we've taken them to doctors' offices. We've taken them to restaurants. We've taken them to grocery stores. If you think of a place where there are people that are gathering, we've taken them to hair salons. We've taken them to barber shops. We've taken them to church organizations. So we want to get the word out there. We've even had them hung up in restrooms, because we've learned that sometimes that's the best place to catch somebody, is when they're by themselves. Our kids with the Youth Ambassador Program had told us a long time ago, do not hang up signs in school halls because of the stereotypes and stigmas associated with them. In the school halls, they told us to put them in the bathroom stalls, because that way it's personal. There's nobody seeing me look at this sign thinking that, oh, wow, there must be something wrong with me. So again,
say too that, we put these in here because not only now, I know not all of you are from Beaver County, or that you're, there might not be many of you, but that 988 number is available for everybody. Just so you know, if anybody can be using that one. The Trevor line as well, the crisis text line for PA. There's also that one. So like there's a lot of other options as well. So making sure we're reaching out. And then we put this in here. I know all of you are from Beaver County, probably, but we do a lot of training throughout the year, and we offer a lot of different training. Like I said, youth mental health first aid is really cool. It's a great one if you want to dive more deeply into some of this topic. A lot of that's offered all around. So even if you're not from Beaver County, there's different people will be doing that training. We do some other ones, and then there's also AFSP, which is the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. They also have individuals that will come out and do some training as well around suicide prevention and things like that. So they're also all over. So you're not, that's not just a Beaver County one as well.
National. They're national. Both.
Yep. And we left some national resources in here too.
NAMI.
Yep. So if we have any questions, I will stop sharing. I know we went over there.
All right. So, well, once again, thank you, Courtney and Susan, for that very timely session and the information. This we felt was very important as we're entering our summer camp season, and many of our younger scouts, this may be their first time to be away from mom and dad for an extended period of time. So we felt this presentation would be very helpful to our adult leaders to recognize any issues. So Justin, I'm not seeing any questions. Do you have any?
Not that I see.
All right, well, you know that what
Just
that
have,
means,
just have two
Susan and
comments
Courtney,
in there from
you
Vern
did,
that
yeah, you
There's
did
two
such a great
comments from Vern.
job.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
after that,
We do
there's
have
no
a couple
questions.
comments listed in the chat from Vern. Just extending the reach in terms of where information can be found. Courtney and Susan are in Beaver County, but Vern also happened to post links to information from Allegheny and Washington counties as well.
Right. So as I said, you two did such a great job. You told us everything we needed to know. There were no further questions. So once again, I'd like to thank both of you for your time this evening. And Steve, would you like to lead us in our closing prayer, and then we'll adjourn?
Absolutely. God, as we head into summer's warm embrace, we thank you for the long days, bright skies, and the chance to explore your wondrous world. Guide our steps on new trails. Help us to tread softly, leaving no harm, and to cherish every flower, stone, and stream. Grant us courage to try new things, wisdom to choose the right path, and friendship to share the journey. May our hearts be full of laughter, our hands be ready to help, and our spirits lifted with every sunrise. Keep us safe as we gather around the campfire's glow, and let each adventure bring us closer to you, to each other, and to the beauty of the world you've given us. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Steve. And so with that, once again, thank all of you for joining us this evening. I hope you have a great summer, and our next